Hi, everybody. I'd like to talk to you about a situation in which you might have an adult client who's also a parent, and they didn't necessarily come into therapy asking to work on their relationship with their child. They might have all sorts of issues: anxiety, self-esteem, depression, addiction. You may have worked for a time on their own childhood issues and other symptoms, and those symptoms have been reduced somewhat and they feel better to some degree, but they've reached a plateau. And they're asking, how does the work that we've done really translate specifically into my life today? What evidence do I have that this psychotherapy has helped me? They may feel somewhat better in their relationships, but they don't feel that sense of maybe joy or the sense of relief. And this is an opportunity for you to bring up the possibility of working with the specific focus of working on their relationship with their child as a way of going back and healing the relationship that they had with their own parent. That's an interesting dynamic that we encounter in therapy as therapists, which is that if you improve the relationship with your own child, it makes you feel better about what happened to you as a child. And the reason is that maybe you're doing something different than what happened to you. And so you're breaking that cycle of intergenerational trauma. And that, just on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, that makes people feel better and calmer about what happened to them when they were children, because they can make a really big difference in the here and now with their own children. My name is Dafna Lender. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm a trainer and supervisor in dyadic developmental psychotherapy and TheraPlay. And I have been working with families from an attachment perspective and a systemic perspective for 25 years. And my real passion is to help parents and children connect and make that bridge to repairing past hurts, past misunderstandings, and ruptures so that they can have a full, loving, connected, rich experience from this day forward. A little later in this video, I'm going to teach you a technique to help your client when they're in the moment and they're about to repeat a pattern or interaction that they know is not good for them and is not good for their child, how to help them to slow down and regulate and connect with themselves so that they can be open to a new experience, something that's more connecting, something that's more of a repair. Let me tell you a story. I worked with a man in his mid-50s. His wife essentially gave him an ultimatum that he had to go to therapy for addiction issues, or else she would leave him. And he was a man who was not accustomed to going to therapy and talking about his feelings. In fact, at one point, he told me that the only reason he is coming is because his wife is making him and that he doesn't really believe in therapy. He had a real resistance to taking ownership of his part in fights and disagreements and tension in the home. And also, he was very reluctant to talk about his childhood. When I talked to him about his childhood, he said that my dad was a really good dad and he tried the best he can. And he was a farmer who was very, very stressed with a lot of work, and he did not talk about his feelings either. And that's just the way it was in his generation. And, you know, his hard work ethic made me the strong man that I am today. So this was, needless to say, this was really difficult for me to be able to get underneath and really talk about what patterns of interaction that he learn, because he didn't want to talk about his experience with his father, and he didn't want to talk about his experience with his wife. So I thought to myself, it would be interesting to find out if he would like to work on his relationship with his son. He has a 10-year-old son, and some of the complaints that his wife had against him was that he was being too strict with his son. I invited him to talk to me about his feelings about his son. And he said, I want him to grow up and have a successful job and a family. And I want him to take pride in what he does. And I said, oh, that makes so much sense. How did your own father teach you how to have a successful job and family? And then he was able to open up. And I found out that his father was really very distant and strict with him, and that he only felt connected to his own father when they worked on the farm and they were in the tractor, and he could sense that his father was content, so he was content. He also told me a lot about his actual fear of his father. His father was very frightening at times and would lock him in the shed when he was misbehaving. So I invited him to look at the opportunity that he had with his son to teach him not only about the farm and about being a man and being strong and being able to overcome one's fears through the very high demands that this man had for his son. One anecdote was that he didn't want his son to be afraid of the farm animals, so he forced him to do work with the horses, even though the boy was really afraid of the horses because he had been kicked by a horse. And so I invited him to think about, what does he say to himself about himself each time his son is not able to perform a task on the farm, like cleaning the horse stalls. And he said he is afraid that he's failed, that his son will not have the capacity to run the farm, and that he won't live up to this legacy of running the farm for generations as it was passed down to him from his father and from his grandfather to his father. And he then really softened towards his own son and was open to the idea that by supporting him and not forcing him to do things that he was afraid of and doing things with him could really help his son to grow. And there were real moments where they had conversations that they'd never had before about what his son could do on the farm that was comfortable for him, that he wasn't afraid of. And he actually found out that his son really loves the horses, but that he felt that his son told him he thinks that the horses don't like me. So all this was so generative, so helpful. And from this avenue or channel of working on this relationship that my client had with his son, he really became more settled. He made me more satisfied. Like he had more of a sense of himself as a person and what his role was beyond being a business person and running a farm. He felt, I have an impact. I have a way of connecting with my son. I can support him. And then he comes to me. He looks at me. He looks to me for guidance. He said, it made me feel like that's what my dad would have done for me if he could have. So that's that aspect of going forward and going backwards. It seems like this mechanism of improving your relationship with your child in the here and now somehow gives you compassion for your own parent and yourself. So now I want to teach you just one technique for helping a client who is a parent to cope with situations where they might feel stressed with their child and they might be about to repeat a negative pattern that they've done in the past, which they want to change. They might yell, or they might criticize. They might give advice when it's not requested. They might feel sorry for themselves and sort of start talking like they're a martyr, and the child doesn't like that. So things that you would have identified are patterns of interaction that they want to change. So the technique is you ask the client to remember a time that they are in one of these conflicts. They were in a conflict with their child. Close their eyes or look at a focal point in the room and bring up that conversation, that memory. In our mind's eye, we have to go back to that moment in order to do the next step, which is you're going to ask the client to do a body scan or to check in, to go inside and see where do they feel in their body, the sensations, because the body is reacting to the interaction, the negative interaction, by getting some sort of shift in the body of discomfort. It might be feelings like tingling in your tummy or constriction in your throat, or tightness in your chest, or maybe feeling frozen in your face. And you're going to ask the client to become aware of those feelings and just to sit with them and breathe for about a count of 7 or 8. You breathe with them. And then you're going to ask the client to think about what are they saying to themselves about themselves when they're in this experience, in this memory. Non-consciously, we have negative cognitions, and they're very, very primal and basic. They're like something like, I'm a failure, I'm going to die, there's no use in trying, I feel hopeless. They're very, very primal in nature in the sense that they get to the core of what the person is afraid of. They might be afraid of that they feel like they're failures, that they feel like they're alone, that they feel like they're rejected, or that they feel like they're damaged. So you help the client to become aware of what they're saying to themselves about themselves. And then you really just say one more time, we're going to notice that voice, what you're saying to yourself about yourself during this moment, but we're not going to judge it or try to change it. We're going to accept it. And then again, to breathe for a count of 6, 5, or 8. Just to breathe and stay with that negative cognition. And then you're going to move on to the next step, which is asking the client to develop with you a message of self-compassion that sort of counters what the negative cognition is. So a message of self-compassion, clients might need your help, and you would be able to give them some suggestions such as, I'm okay as I am. There's value in me showing up. I can accept my mistakes and still try. I'm okay. This is worth it. I have what to offer. I can still show up. So those are your messages of self-compassion. And you're going to guide the client to tune into the body sensation of whatever it is, the tightness or the sense of being frozen, or the heat in their shoulders or arms, whatever they're feeling, and to also keep in mind the negative cognition of I'm a failure, but also then to take the self-compassion. And what I like to do is I suggest that they put their hand on their heart and their other hand on top of their first hand and just move side to side so that you're rocking side to side with them. They can say out loud or to themselves the message, which is the self-compassion message. We're not trying to erase the negative cognition. We're just saying a message of self-compassion, which is what I have here and now is valuable, or whatever the self-compassion message that you agreed on. You can repeat it out loud. They can repeat it to themselves or out loud with you while you rock back and forth and put your hand on your heart. And this action is going to be an action that you're going to ask them to practice at home. And if you let yourself become aware of the feeling in your body, become aware of the negative cognition, put your hand on your heart and say the message of self-compassion, any one of those steps will then allow your client to feel more calm and settled. And then they'll be able to be open to the next steps. And the next steps is to see, what does my child need from me right now? Do they need me to just listen? Do they need a hug? Do they need me to offer them a cup of tea? The awareness of, I don't have to react from my negative state of my bodily state or my mind. You can really see so much better what it is that your child needs. It could be right in front of you. So that's just one of the techniques that you can do to help a person become aware in the moment of those negative behaviors that they're trying to change, and help them to really calm that voice, calm the body, so that they can feel more calm and more grounded and more open to their child. If you'd like to know more about working with your adult clients who are also parents and helping them with their relationship with their children, I invite you to come to the workshop from the Academy of Therapy Wisdom about creating these healthy connections between your adult clients and their children. The course is divided into 4 modules, and the first module is going to teach you about intergenerational trauma. What is this pattern of passing down negative interactions, fearful interactions, and how we're able to stop it? Also, how does that help your client to feel better about their own childhood, as well as what the legacy is that they're leaving for their children and their future children, grandchildren, etc. Module 2 is going to be about the nervous system when your client is responding to their child in some way, and it makes them feel a surge of energy that then is related to what happened to them when they were children, and it blocks that client from being able to be supportive and open and make repair with their child. That's what repeats that cycle of intergenerational trauma. So you're going to learn in an experiential way how to help the client map out their nervous system and the responses that they have to their child in the 3 levels: the dorsal, sympathetic, and ventral level. And this comes from the polyvagal theory. And you'll be able to learn this on your own self first. So this is also really useful for you, not only as a clinician, but as a human being in relationship with children or other people. Module 3 is going to be helping the client to discover what their non-conscious beliefs are as it relates to their children. I'm no good. I'm a failure. This isn't worth it. I'm hopeless. I'm a bad parent. Those kind of messages. Module 4 is going to be how to teach parents to successfully communicate with their child. So once you've done the work, the groundwork for making a parent more regulated and more available to their child, now you're going to be able to learn how to help them communicate with their child in a way that's going to promote connection and it's going to promote secure attachment. And that technique is called PACE. It's the PACE attitude, and it's playful, accepting, curious, and empathic. As therapists, we work with clients who bring with them those traumas, those attachment traumas that are embedded in their history, in their childhood, which are frequently passed on to the next generation, and the pattern continues. And we have an opportunity as therapists to help break the cycle of intergenerational trauma. So by doing this focused work, by inviting your clients to look actively at their relationship with their child and guiding them to change those patterns, we can improve the lives of our clients. We can improve the lives of the children, and we can make a difference in helping heal attachment trauma in our society. So this is an invitation to you to experience this very hopeful avenue of work that can make a difference for all of us.